Ahoy there! Good morning, friends. Whoever may or may not be watching, this video is from me to you to say some shit. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to word this, so don't think I lost my train of thought. But it's more like trying to figure out how to express this without sounding like, you go one direction or other to any extreme, and you find yourself getting trapped in ways of thinking. My way of, I guess the statement I was going to make was to love yourself. But saying that really opens up a can of worms as far as arrogance, pious attitudes that people hold. And when people think that they're right and they think that what they're saying is true, then they develop a strong, I guess, adherence towards certain set of values, and such as a belief system, which when something picks apart something in that belief system, whether it be political or religious or just emotional, anything, we have a choice to either defend our point of view or to look at things in a new light. So every day when I'm confronted with something, especially if external circumstances or friends or family or people are telling me this or that, or let's say they have a totally different outlook on some subject, whether it be political or otherwise. And so I have to really sit and think, are they right? And what gives them such strong emotion towards feeling this way? Rather than just saying, oh, the person's ignorant, they're stupid, they don't know. Because that's not fair. So back to the loving yourself part. When I say that, what I mean is to take a full inventory of what in life you have done, the things that you want to do, the things that good and bad that you've accomplished. It doesn't have to be an actual list of these things. But sometimes when we look back on our history and we look at things we did when we were young, we become guilty. For example, I was talking to a friend the other day who was, he was having a bad day and he was kind of upset about something that was personal to him. I didn't really get the details, but it had something to do with something that had happened when he was younger, and feeling guilty for a certain thing that he had done against, I think it was the church. Had something to do with some sort of vandalism or whatnot, but it's irrelevant. At this point, I said, you've grown. You are a new person. In fact, you are 3 times older than you were at that age. You were still a teenager. I mean, this was, if not 12 or 13, but I said, when I was younger, I did all kinds of destructive things, I broke a couple N-rings and stole things from people. I never felt like I could steal. Like I always felt guilty when I stole from individuals. So as I got older, I would steal from stores and justify that by saying, oh, well, it's the corporate entity, I don't care. They just have insurance cover it. But when it came from taking from individual people, there was always something that felt wrong about it. So anyway, when I was like 14 or something, I remember we opened up some car that was sitting somewhere and took some tapes out of the console and took them home. And I always felt guilty about that. And then I think about all the folks who constantly break into cars and steal other people's things, and how it's just a regular way of life, how they've justified it to themselves. I could never justify stealing from people. So my point here is that I learned from that. Now I can look back on the things that I did when I was young, and I could beat myself up over it. It's like whipping yourself. Finding flaws within your character from earlier parts of life that you can use to, I guess, justify feeling pity for yourself or feeling like you're not worthy, and everyone is worthy. Because if you're aware of the things that you've done in the past and you feel guilt towards them, that's instantly a +1 for you, because it's an experience you've had where you've learned. It's one of those subjects that's difficult to convey, because if you never did something, then you would never know whether the results would be good or bad. Sometimes we refrain from doing things we want to try or things we want to experience because we're afraid that we might fail at it. And for me personally, it's never been a matter of whether I'd fail. It's a matter of whether I'm going to actually still enjoy doing what I do later. But I find myself beating myself up over what I could have done. Let's say When I was younger, I said, well, I could be a millionaire if I wanted. I could go work this or that. I have the capacity and the ability to do what I want. But what do I want? And that was like the hardest question. I want to be happy. And being happy means being honest with myself, which means also loving myself and being fair with myself. So if we have something from the past that we need to move on from, like in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the 10 steps is to make amends with those that you have wronged. Now this isn't just an AA thing. This is some of these principles go way back. These are like universal principles. The redemption and forgiveness are major important parts of life. And this is why forgiveness has always been such an important part of religious culture, is to let things go, because we know that deep in our hearts, when we're holding something in and resenting someone or feeling a certain way towards somebody, it eats us alive. It tears us apart. It's just like the guilt of knowing we did something wrong and never admitting to it and just feeling that. So I've been trying in my life to just be as honest as possible, brutally honest, which sometimes gets me in trouble too, because I could refrain from being totally honest and keep the white lies to myself, or tell everybody what they want to hear, but I don't. I tell people how I truly feel. So it's a give and a take, and it's a balance we all have to figure out, what we consider to be important. But I guess my only point here is to say to love yourself, be happy with who you are, and realize that if you don't like who you are, it's okay. Because there are parts of myself I don't like. And these are the keys to working on. These are the keys to success, to understand our shortcomings and our flaws and work them out. Rather than just saying, oh, well, that's how it is. That's just the way I am. Which I guess could lead me into, I was having a discussion, for example, the other day with someone who was saying I'm too fast-paced, that I move too quick, because I like to get things done quick. I'm always like a hand in here and hand in here, drawing a picture, jumping from thing to thing. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, that's just how I am. And then I thought, well, should I be a different way? See, these are thoughts that go through my mind, like, is the person right? Am I moving too fast? And I thought, well, I don't feel like I am. But from my perspective, the other person is moving too slow. And it's really a viewpoint depending on who you are and where you are in your life and what you do, the things that you do or don't do, or the I'm an intense person, I guess, and I have a lot of hobbies and habits and fun things that I do, and I like to experience things, and every day I'm excited to wake up and embrace the new day. Yet there are still things that I know I should be doing, let's say, and things that I can work on. But it's important for us all to embrace those things, I think, and really ask ourselves what we want. And if we're unhappy, to try to ask ourselves why. Because I'd like to see more people happy. Even though I know a lot of people are happy, it's when people are unhappy with themselves, they're unhappy with the world, and they reflect their own shortcomings about themselves into the world. And all of a sudden, instead of a couple people are criminals, everyone's a criminal. Instead of a couple of corrupt politicians, everyone's corrupt. Instead of a few people lying to us, everyone's lying to us. And this viewpoint is dangerous because it allows us to completely separate our views and morals and values from the rest of society and assume that we have something better or we have one up on the world. And I know the state of mind, I know that feeling. And maybe it's true sometimes. Maybe some people do have a better standpoint, better viewpoint of life. But it doesn't do any good if you can't convey that to other people and you can't live happily. In other words, no matter how much knowledge you have and how spiritual or happy you claim to be, if you're not able to incorporate yourself into the real world, then you're not sharing it with your fellow man, and it's more of a selfish notion. And since mankind is one organism, if you will, I guess it's up to us to just kind of bite the bullet and deal with each other now, so our kids in the future can have more tolerance. My example, I guess, would be racism. It was easy for the father to tell the son, oh, hey, this is, those are niggers and those are spicks and those are wops and you don't need to deal with those people. They're all thieves and liars. And you have a kid that's raised to believe that people of a different color of skin actually are a certain way, all of them. And then the kid passes that on to his kids and his kids. And now we've finally grown out of that because one generation or another was able to step back and say, okay, I can't just repeat what I've been told and taught in my gut. This doesn't feel right. And then things change. And so, with that said, that's how I feel society can change over generations. Sometimes the stuff's just suppressed to the back of society, but, you know, we as a society speak out on what's right and wrong, and if we're doing something wrong in our hearts and we know it's wrong, we're likely to dislike ourselves because of it. So stop doing things that are wrong, and it's not so easy. So, not for everybody. I mean, for example, the guy who has to steal to feed his family. I mean, that's his deal, you know, in another country, in this country, it doesn't matter where. People compromise values and integrity in order to get by in life. We all do it. We all compromise our values sometimes. So what's the goal? To work on lessening that so we can love ourselves more, and in turn we'll love other people more. And that's how I feel about it. So talk to you all.